led the show. Prescott said he'll be back out there at tomorrow's practice. Doesn't seem to be too big of an issue. Coach, in your opinion, how much pressure is on Dak this season?
I don't think very much pressure is on him at all.
Totally agree.
And here's why: is if he just plays like he's been playing, that's really, really good.
Yep.
And when he has added pressure to his game, that's where he's gotten in trouble and throwing all those picks. And that was the year that he had 15, and it was the outlier of his career. But if we can pull up last year's numbers, they're pretty incredible. Look, he's first in the league in completion percentage, pass TDs, and then go right on down, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So if he just plays anywhere close to that, he's in line for a big contract, if not from Dallas, from somebody else. The other thing that he's got to get over is how teams are going to look at his performance in the playoffs. And that's going to be a big decision from an organization that brings him in as to whether or not that's something that is indicative that he can't perform in those moments, or he just hasn't been in the right situation.
I look at this slightly different. From the standpoint of the pressure that is on him, if he desires to remain the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback in 2025, a ton of pressure. We all know he's a really good quarterback. If he continues to play, like you said, this way, he's going to get a contract somewhere. I don't believe there's anything he can do in this uniform, in the regular season. He can be the MVP. And if he throws a dud in the postseason,
they move on.
They have to move on, because we've seen this. We've seen Dak Prescott play at high levels in the regular season. As it pertains to the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not speaking moving forward and any other team acquiring his.
Well, I think that's why they haven't signed him.
Correct.
Is because of this exact
But I think
concern.
as it appears from that standpoint, yes, there's an immense amount of pressure on Dak Prescott.
So I think that's actually a good way to look at it, because I'm gonna sound like I'm wiggling out of the question, but I agree with both of you 100%, because I think that you're right that I don't buy this, the Cowboys have presented Dak with a contract. I'm sure they have, but I think they have presented him with a contract they know he won't take. Because I think they want to see what he looks like this year before they decide he is going to be our quarterback at record-breaking money for the next 4 years. So there is a world where he has a year very similar to last year, maybe not MVP contender, but a good year. They win 10, 11, 12 games. He's bad in the playoffs, and they're like, you know what, we need to turn the page. But in that world, he still gets $60 million from someone else. Like that's, so where I say, I wrote no pressure as far as what Dak is playing for this year. Is his next contract going to be $60 million a year, or is his next contract going to be $70 million a year? Because he's going to be a 31-year-old free agent quarterback, but that could mean going elsewhere as opposed to playing for the Cowboys.
Which is
okay. I'm so sick of this narrative that they're trying to wait to see what he can do. We know who Dak Prescott is. He's not going to show you anything different than from who he is. So it makes fundamentally no sense. Zero. What are we expecting him to do? If he has worse numbers than he did last season, does that mean that he's a worse quarterback? If he has the same numbers that he had as last season, does that mean he's the same quarterback? And if he has slightly better numbers, because what is he going to have? Even better numbers than what he's already had? If he has slightly better numbers or higher numbers in terms of rankings, are we going to say that he's an even better quarterback? That he just keeps getting better and better and better? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so I, too, also agree with kind of what everyone's saying in terms of what Greg is saying, how there's, like, pressure to I guess, perform in order to stay as a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. But also, right now, the way how this franchise is being run is kind of a joke. They don't got CD taken care of. They don't got Micah taken care of. McCarthy's widely seen as a lame duck head coach. So I don't understand. If they didn't get better from last year, why would we expect the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott to be better? Especially when these other teams that were better than the Dallas Cowboys, or maybe just as good or slightly worse, they all got better. That's the fundamental problem that the Cowboys also face. The Packers got better. The Lions got better. The Commanders got better. The Eagles got better. Like, these teams are getting better. The Dallas Cowboys did not. And yet we're saying that the Dallas Cowboys have to be better than they were last year in order for, like, Dak to be seen as successful. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just does not make sense. And then are they trying to be like, well, hey, we're trying to, like, give Dak not a lot, and we want to see what he can do. It's like, okay, well, we know he's not Patrick Mahomes. So if you need another year to see what he can do without maybe, you know, a perfect situation, well, he's not going to be as successful as Patrick Mahomes. We know that. Not only is he not as good as Patrick Mahomes, but he also doesn't have the GOAT head coach in Andy Reid. He's got Mike McCarthy. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. And honestly, like, it's a frustrating conversation that we have to keep having again and again and again, because it's just not. The Dallas Cowboys are waiting because they want to see what Dak can do this year. What? Based on what? If it was a new coach, then I could understand. If it was a new head coach and they wanted to see what could Dak do with Bill Belichick, what could Dak do with Ben Johnson, what could Dak do with Harbaugh, then I could understand. That would make complete sense to me. 1,000% sense. But here's the reality too. Dak's ability to get another contract in terms of how much money he gets. I don't know if there's the pressure between the 60 and 70 million. I don't know about that. But if it's a good coach, a top level coach who's looking for a new quarterback, let's say Matthew Stafford gets injured again and it's just clear Stafford just can't stay healthy, you know, and the Rams have a good team and they want to get settled there, right? Maybe McVay wants a ready-made quarterback. Again, made-up scenario, but I'm just using it as an example. No matter what Dak does this year will not impact what Sean McVay then goes to his ownership and his GM and say, get me Dak. Because they're like, well, Dak wants 65. McVay would say he's worth that 65. Or if he's not worth that, then McVay will say, no, we can't afford to pay him 65. He's a good quarterback and I can win with him, but no. I'd rather draft someone or pick up something, whatever it may be. I don't see that Dak is going to show any of these other top-level coaches anything. So then the question is what about these lower-run organizations that don't have an elite coach, that maybe are kind of fast and loose with their decisions, like the Carolina Panthers, like the New York Giants, like the Oakland Raiders? I kind of think that no matter what Dak does, outside of him just being an absolute disaster, being bottom of the league, they're going to pay for him because they desperately want a quarterback potentially. They desperately will be like, fine, we'll pay. We need something. We're kind of drowning here. So I'm just not so sure what Dak can do this year. I outside of winning a Super Bowl, which it's a dumb conversation to even have. Like, he's just going to have top level success in the playoffs suddenly. It's not a conversation that to me that's worth having because it just feels so unrealistic. It's like debating, can the Carolina Panthers go on a run and win the NFC? It's like, I mean, sure, I guess technically, but what are we talking about? I'm not going to waste my time making videos and treating that topic seriously. So I'm not going to treat that seriously. If Dak wins a Super Bowl or he gets to a Super Bowl, then he'll get paid. Or then Dallas will want to sign him and pay him for what he's worth. It's like, why do we have any reason to believe that that's even remotely possible? It just doesn't make sense. Like, every Dallas Cowboys video that I've done for the last few months, I just feel like my head's like gonna like explode because it just none of it makes sense to me. And all of the conversations around it truly don't make sense to me. We know who Dak is. So you either think Dak is worth how much he wants or not. And if you don't think he's worth that much, there's nothing to see. Then you're just gonna let him play out this year and then you're gonna try to move on. If you think that he is worth that, then you gotta pay him, or be like, we know you're worth this amount of money, but we don't want to pay you this because it's our philosophy that it'll be better for us to build a better team, blah 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 blah. But I know Dak probably doesn't have trust in that. But if he doesn't have trust in that Jerry Jones can do that, then I don't know why you would want to be with the Dallas Cowboys. Like, do you want to win or do you just want your money? So this whole thing is just messy to me. It really is. But this idea of how much pressure is on Dak, to me, there's pressure on you when the expectations are high. And anyone that has high expectations on the Dallas Cowboys this year, I just don't see it. And in fact, even if the Dallas Cowboys completely crumble and Dak's numbers go down, at this point, I'm not so sure who's going to blame Dak for that. I think they're going to say Jerry Jones has lost it. I don't know what's going on. Mike McCarthy's not really that good of a coach. CeeDee Lamb didn't get paid. He was disengaged. They had a weird offseason. They didn't get a good run. They didn't get any running back. They got, they're going to make excuses for Dak. So it just, just doesn't make sense. I think the only other thing that Dak can do for himself is if he balls out in a playoff game. But I still think Dak has reached the level where, let's say he balls out in the first round. Let's say it's the wild card or whatever. And he balls out. He crushes it, right? Like he did in the Tampa Bay game. But if he then loses the next game, it'll still just be the same thing. They're not going to be like, see, he could play in the playoffs. Just anything shy of him just having a dominant playoff run, I just don't know who's changing their mind on Dak. Because quite frankly, there's nothing to change your mind on. He is exactly who he is. It's that simple. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? How much pressure do you think there is on Dak? And if Dak doesn't stick around with Dallas, what do you think is a legitimate, viable team for him to go to? And will they pay him the $65-70 million that he potentially wants? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.